This is the Volkswagen ID.4. It's the electric SUV a lot of people have been waiting for, and it follows up from the ID.3, which went on sale in 2020. Now this is a larger model, but it does use a lot of the same electrical architecture, and this particular version uses a 77 kilowatt hour battery, which Volkswagen says will offer a range of up to 500 kilometers in WLTP conditions. Now it does have quite a bit of competition coming its way. Obviously there's the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Nissan Ariya, not to mention the Tesla Model Y, and from in-house within the group there's also the Skoda Enyaq. What we're going to have a look at today is show you some of the features that makes this stand out and what could make it your next electric SUV. Now if you want to know more about the ID.4, do head over to CompleteCar.ie. We've got full details of that, including pricing and specifications and reviews to all of its rivals. Please do hit the subscribe button, and if you hit the notification bell, next time we upload a video, you'll be alerted to that too. In the meantime, get involved in the comments below and tell us what you think about this electric SUV. The interior of the ID.4 is quite nicely laid out. It's not very fussy, and you have basically the same kind of setup as what's in the ID.3. The ID.4 has a 10-inch touchscreen display. This one is the optional 12-inch, which features on the higher grade models. It's very nice, easy to use. The software is definitely improving. It's not as buggy and glitchy as it was in the ID.3, so that's a really good sign. It is slightly angled towards the driver, although it's still relatively easy for those sitting in the passenger seat to use as well. The whole thing works quite nicely. It's well laid out. You've got nice amounts of storage up here. You've also got a wireless charging pad in underneath. Very easy to take your phone out of your pocket and pop it in there on charge. And you have two more cup holders further down here, which you can cover everything off if you wish. There's also USB charge ports all around. You've got two in the front and two in the rear. And other than that, the other impressive thing about this car is how much space there is inside. You do sit a little bit higher up. The seats are quite nice and supportive. They have this leather and kind of suede material in the center, but it's that driving position that a lot of people are going to like. This sits a little bit higher than a Volkswagen Tiguan, and you've got, although it's quite a raked windscreen, it's actually quite a good view out of it. And having used the head-up display, actually does work quite well. This is the augmented head-up display that Volkswagen has been rolling out into its ID cars, and it's quite nice in terms of how it detects, for example, if you're drifting out of your lane, it will give you a dynamic view of how that looks on the screen, and also you can use it for having directions, so turn-by-turn navigation. Now let's have a look in the rear. Now when it comes to getting in the rear, it's really easy. That's quite a nice door aperture. It makes it very easy for even full-grown adult like me getting in and out, especially because it sits that little bit higher off the ground. Now in the back, well, it definitely feels very spacious, partly because of this huge panoramic glass roof, which totally opens up when the cover comes back, gives you an amazing view in the back, but it also floods light in here, so it does feel very, very spacious. It's quite nice, it's quite comfortable here. I have loads of legroom. So I'm about 5'9", and as you can see, I've got quite a good bit of headroom, but also I've got loads of legroom because of that driving seat is set up for my driving position. And as you can see, I've got literally, I can just about touch the back of that seat. So really good amounts of room. Also, the middle seat isn't that much higher up, and there's no transmission tunnel, so it's a totally flat floor all the way across. That's really nice, really useful too. Now there's USB-C ports back here. There's two of them, so I can keep my devices charged up. And actually it's quite neat. There is a pouch in the back of the seats lower down, but there's also a smaller pouch right up the top here that if you did want to pop in your smartphone, you can do that. The middle seat, well, it's actually quite comfortable. It's not that raised, and because there's a flat floor, you do feel like there's a good amount of space in the back. If you don't want to use that, obviously there is an armrest that pops down. There's two cup holders. There's also a ski hatch, so you can reach into the boot if you need to. The two outer rear seats come with ISOFIX points, so that's quite useful, and they're easy to reach as well. And the front seat can also take a child seat, and it has a top tether point down at the bottom as well. Now, although there's no frunk to speak of inside the front of the ID.4, there is quite a decent boot space. In all, it measures 543 litres and can be increased to 1,575 litres. Now that's a little bit less than what you're going to get in a Volkswagen Tiguan, but it is still quite a useful amount of boot, and it's actually quite easy to load heavy items in because you can adjust the height of the floor and bring that up, so it does make it a little bit more practical. This particular version is the 204 horsepower motor, and it's got ample performance. I don't really think anyone who's buying an ID.4 or considering buying an ID.4 is going to need any more performance than what's available here. It gets up to speed very, very quickly. You've got ample amounts of power there. As soon as you give it any sort of a prod, it just surges forward with that instantaneous electric torque. So that's a big plus, and even when you do need to drive a little bit harder, it does handle very, very well. The adaptive air suspension does a great job of balancing everything out. Steering is quite nice. There's a reasonably direct feel to it as well. It doesn't feel overly light, and at the same time it doesn't feel artificially weighted either, so that's quite good. The ride quality, for the most part, it does take out pretty much everything, and it keeps body control in check. It's not going to ride on an absolute carpet of air, I would say, judging by some of the sort of bumps that we've been going over, but by no means does it crash over bumps or anything like that. It's very, very smooth, very refined drive. There's very little road noise that really seems to come through, so the cabin seems quite well insulated in that respect as well. One of the things I've really enjoyed using is this augmented head-up display that Volkswagen has been rolling out in its ID models. It's really nice how it works. Like, it's too hard for me to show you exactly how it works here, but I've got my destination inputted here, and as you start to come up to a turn, you get a very faint arrows, and they come up almost towards you as they grow in size. But also this light bar across the bottom starts to sweep and give you a further indication, and it's really impressive, I have to say. It seems like a bit of a gimmick, but once you start to use it, it actually does work quite well. The one thing I found is that it's not very in your face. It's not a distraction, I would say. Even when those arrows come up towards you, it does it in quite a kind of transparent way. They're almost like ghost arrows. But it's quite nice how it does it. My concern was that it was going to be too distracting, but it's not. It actually just works very, very well. And I think already that's kind of getting rid of any kind of reservations I may have had about it. I think it's quite a nice display, and yeah, it works. So not everyone will like it. I'd be curious to see how different it is to use at night when it's darker. Obviously driving today, it's not that bad, but it'd be interesting to see how it works in the longer term. But initial impression, it's pretty good. On the motorway, well, it's very refined. There's definitely a little bit more wind noise, a bit more road noise, as you might expect, but I could very easily have a conversation with the person sitting next to me, and I'm also conscious of the fact that this particular car is on full winter tires, so they're obviously going to generate a little bit more road noise. But other than that, this feels very comfortable, very refined, very solid actually on the road. That's the one thing, the initial impression is that it just feels very sure-footed, and I think that's one of the, again, another appeal of SUVs is that they do have that kind of solid feeling, and this definitely has it.
The first Volkswagen ID.4 first editions are due to arrive in March 2020 with a starting price of €43,426 on the road for private buyers. The ID.4 First Max will cost €56,565 on the road for private buyers. In total, there's around 1,700 units available in 2021, and Volkswagen Ireland expects that 700 of these will be made up of the first edition models. The remaining 1,000 units will be made up of other models which will come in May, and will include a smaller 52 kWh version with a range of 348 kilometers. That will also have a starting price of just under €36,000 after grants. The smaller battery version in Ireland will only come with a 148 horsepower output. If you want to find out more, head over to our website on CompleteCar.ie.